On the day I was poisoned by my adopted son and daughter, I finally learned they were my husband's illegitimate children with another woman, and just after my 21st day of mourning, my grief-stricken husband welcomed his mistress into the mansion. At the wedding banquet, my husband proudly patted the heads of our adopted son and daughter and praised them. Indeed, it takes father and son to fight side by side, without you two. When would that wretched woman ever have made room for your mother? On the day I was reborn, when my husband brought the children back to the manor, I looked at him with a beaming smile. Oh, whose husband is so considerate, bringing back 2 servants from the battlefield? Qi Yang seemed taken aback. Before he could speak, I had already defined his 2 children as servants, leaving him momentarily stunned. Meanwhile, the little brat who had poisoned my medicine in my past life hid behind Qi Yang. Glaring at me with resentment, I maintained my dignified composure as the lady of the house, waving a hand to the maid behind me. Hey you, go and see what kind of person the master has brought back for us. Hey you stepped forward to grab the little girl who was clinging to Qi Yang's sleeve, but unexpectedly, the little girl slapped Hayu's hand in return. Who are you? Daddy, where? The 2 children, only 6 years old, clearly lacked the cunning they had developed in their previous lives. They clung tightly to Qi Yang, one on each side, refusing to let go. With each cry of daddy, Qi Yang's face flushed and paled in turn. I stood where I was, doing my best to suppress the satisfied expression on my face, feigning confusion as my gaze wandered between Qi Yang and the 2 children. Husband, no. Ran, let me explain. They just lost their father, so that's why they're calling me that. Qi Yang was at a loss, wanting to keep his distance from the 2 children. Yet also seeming somewhat reluctant to do so, he stumbled through his lies, which were nothing more than the same old story, a long-time comrade in arms who died tragically, and since I have no children, I brought them back as a form of solace. I took my time enjoying his awkwardness before gracefully walking over, bending down, and personally wiping the little girl's tears. You should have said so earlier. Look at all this fuss. Come. Let auntie take a look. Crying really makes you look quite ugly. She probably knew she had caused trouble. Staying as still as a little doll under my hands, I pinched her adorable little face and couldn't help but smile. You little brat, daring to poison me. If I can't handle you, who can? The good days are still ahead. The 2 children were thus settled in the Qi residence. In my previous life, they stayed as adopted children, since I had been infertile for many years. Qi Yang even made the decision to have them added to the family register. I gave them all the treatment that Qi Yang's biological children deserved, but in the end, they still believed I had taken the rightful position of their birth mother as the legitimate wife, and they showed no mercy when poisoning me. This time, don't blame me for being unkind. Faced with Qi Yang's hesitant talk about the family tree, I firmly refused while drawing my eyebrows. No. The fortune teller said that adopting a child affects the children's palace. What if they both occupy it? Then I might not have any children of my own, right? I glanced at Qi Yang in the mirror, who clearly still had more to say, put down the eyebrow pencil in my hand, turned around, and asked in a joking tone, Husband, you wouldn't not want our own children, would you? Qi Yang jumped 3 feet high, his excited voice cracking. Ran, what are you saying? We've been in love for so many years. Don't you know me by now? Oh, I know all too well what kind of trash this guy is, always eyeing what's in the pot while eating from his bowl, but I pretended not to understand his little schemes, blowing away the stray powder that had accidentally gotten on my hand. Exactly. We've been husband and wife for so many years. Surely that counts for more than 2 children from someone else. How about this? Before I give birth, they won't be added to the family register, and will change their names. If it's a boy, call him Panna. If it's a girl, call her Yinmai. How does that sound? How can that be? Yanqing and Yanning already have names. Qi Yang's irritation was visibly growing, to the point where he could no longer maintain his usual facade of doting on his wife. Of course, I knew they already had names. After all, his mistress had deliberately chosen those names based on Qi Yang's own, saying something like, since they can't take Brother Yang's surname, let them share his given name. This is the fruit of our love. Such an affected manner. Just thinking about it makes one nauseous. I smacked the eyebrow pencil down on the table, my tone turning unpleasant as well. Talking about being good only to me. liking me no matter what I'm like, yet you still look down on me for giving birth and raising children. Who did I do it for? 2 juniors, violating the master's name taboo if word gets out. What will become of my dignity as the mistress? We haven't even built any affection yet, and you've already yelled at me repeatedly since I entered the manor. People might think they're your own children. If that's the case, then you can just change their names. I grabbed a handkerchief, covered my face, and started fake crying, wailing so loudly it shook the heavens and moved the earth, causing the maids and nannies in the manor to kneel down and try to comfort me. Chi Yang's old wet nurse trembled as she shielded me. Master, the mistress has only good intentions. All these years, so many people have mocked the mistress for not being able to bear children. How could you still strike at her heart like this? If this old servant may say, this isn't a big matter. He's just your subordinate. Adopting his child is already an immense act of grace. Otherwise, that child would be begging on the streets right now. If you find the name unpleasant, master, how about calling one Panna and the other Shenger? It means hoping for endless life. You see, it's a good omen and sounds pleasant too. Chi Yang was put on the spot, clearly unwilling to agree, yet he could only try to struggle and began fabricating a new story. That's the guard who saved me, master. For us servants, taking a blade for our master is an honor. If this old servant dies tomorrow and Tiger Boy dares to think of becoming the young master, I'll crawl out from the grave to beat that thing with no sense of order or ethics to death. Leaning on my old wet nurse's arm, I cried with thunder but no rain, while inwardly marveling, the older the ginger, the spicier it is, always hitting right where it hurts. Tomorrow, we must assign 2 more attendants to serve the elderly. Such a kind soul deserves to live a long and healthy life. And so, Yanqing and Yanning became Panna and Shenger. After making some inquiries, Hayu returned and told me with great confusion that Chi Yang had spent the entire night crying in the study with the 2 children. I was not the least bit surprised. As for Chi Yang, he came from a military background, having worked his way up to his current official position through considerable effort. With no family backing to speak of, he still had to manage social engagements in the capital. I was drawn to him because I saw him as a good man with a promising future. While he valued me as a noblewoman from the capital, with both status and wealth, he had it all figured out. First, bring the children into the household, win me over, and make me give up the idea of having my own children. That way, the dowry would all go to his children, kill me when the time is right, put on a show of affection during holidays, remarry, and still enjoy the resources from my father's family. Unfortunately, today the old nanny's few words shattered the foundation for getting the 2 children into the family register. To be fair, if these children really belonged to one of his soldiers, I would never be so harsh. Unfortunately, they were born into the wrong family, but it's fine, they won't have to suffer for much longer, since I'll eventually deal with their father, the one who started it all. I toyed with the invitation my friend had sent me and decided to add a little more fuel to the fire for this whole family. Hey you, go and make a few new outfits for our adorable Panna and Shenger. I want to take them out to see the world. When I showed up at the minister's wife's garden party with the 2 children, everyone I knew looked surprised. My close friend Lady Xue was even more direct. Who are these 2? I reached out to touch Panna, who wore a resentful expression, and was very satisfied with his well-fitting but exceptionally new clothes. These 2 are the children of my husband's guards. Alas, they lost their fathers at such a young age. My husband is kind-hearted and has already decided to adopt them. Madame Xue's expression was indescribable. She waved to summon a maid and instructed her to take the 2 children to the backyard to play. Afterward, she took my hand, speaking with great earnestness. Ran, you are far too careless. Your husband's guards, could they possibly be nobodies? When a person dies, the court doesn't even grant a posthumous honor. If the father is gone, what about the mother? And if the mother is gone, shouldn't there still be relatives from the clan? If the situation had been appropriate, I would have really wanted to grab her hand and shout, "You're absolutely right. I don't know how I was bewitched by that pair of sniveling villains and their dead father in my past life, believing such an absurd story. But now is not the time to talk about this." I grabbed Mrs. Xue's hand in return, patting it to reassure her. "Don't say that, you know my husband, he's soft-hearted. There might be some impropriety in this matter. I'll go back and discuss it with him again." Madame Xue was not comforted by my words. She turned to look at Panna, who had just reached the corridor, and spoke hesitantly. "I don't mean to be rude, but please don't take it the wrong way. That boy looks so much like your husband, does he?" I looked up with a confused expression, my gaze meeting Panna's. I wasn't sure if he could see clearly, but I flashed him a perfectly doting smile before slowly adding the rest of my sentence. "Surely not, it's not like I'm forbidding him from taking concubines." I sat at the banquet, watching the young unmarried girls admire flowers and chase butterflies, chatting idly with my sister-in-law from my maiden family, quietly waiting for the drama that was to follow. Sure enough, even before the formal banquet began, a commotion broke out, accompanied by the cries of a child. "Mother, he hit me." The son of the censorate Inspector Zhao's wife stumbled into her arms, crying uncontrollably. Meanwhile, Panna, who was accused of hitting someone, wore a sullen expression, showing none of the innocence typical of his age. I frowned. "Panna, why did you hit him?" He didn't speak, just stared at me intently. I turned to apologize to Mrs. Zhao. "I'm so sorry, this child's family has gone through some changes, and I only wanted to take them out to relax. I didn't expect things to turn out like this." Mrs. Zhao quickly stood up to return the courtesy. "Mrs. Qi, you're too kind. Children are bound to have their little bumps and scrapes, it's perfectly normal. It's also my fault for not teaching Xiaojun better manners. Come now, let's not cry anymore. Come over and have something to eat." She tried to reach out and pull Panna over, but Panna slapped Mrs. Zhao's hand away and then, like a little firecracker, charged straight at me, biting my arm hard. Hayu and my sister-in-law scrambled to help, one pulling Panna away, the other checking the wound. Even while being tightly restrained, Panna still wore that same fierce, almost predatory expression. "You wicked woman, you stole my father." Seizing the opportunity, Shenge, who had been hiding silently in the back, suddenly charged and headbutted me in the stomach. "Your father is the one who's dead. My father is alive and well." My sister-in-law's face turned livid with anger. "What is this little beast saying? Go and fetch Master Qi. Is this how our good young lady is being mistreated in his household?" A perfectly good banquet was thus ruined. I lay in the guest room, pretending to be in too much pain to get up, watching Qi Yang rush over, out of breath. Almost all the wives of Qi Yang's colleagues, with whom he usually socialized, witnessed this commotion. Some frowned, while others covered their faces and laughed. My sister-in-law didn't even give the two children a friendly look. She just sat at the table with a cup of tea, exuding a chilling aura all over. Qi Yang stepped forward with an apologetic smile. "Greetings to my sister-in-law, it's been a while. How is my father-in-law's health?" My sister-in-law put the lid back on her teacup, the porcelain making a crisp clinking sound. She looked up, her tone neither warm nor cold. "Can't you see your aunt is ill? You come in without even a word of concern." Qi Yang stole a glance at me, then put on that disgusting expression again, his face beaming with a smile. "With my sister-in-law here, naturally I must first greet the elders." "Madam, what is this?" The two matrons by my sister-in-law's side, holding the troublemakers Panna and Shenge, appeared before Qi Yang. Even Qi Yang, as foolish as he was, could see that something was wrong. Did Yanqing and Yanning cause trouble? His sister-in-law frowned. "What did you call them?" Qi Yang knew he had spoken out of turn, perhaps also feeling a guilty conscience. As beads of sweat the size of beans rolled down his forehead, he stole another glance at me, his pleading expression unmistakable. Being such a considerate and good wife, I naturally wouldn't let him suffer in awkwardness. So, with great effort, I propped myself up from the bed, my voice weak and unsteady, adding fuel to the fire. "Sister-in-law, my husband didn't mean it. The name has only been changed for a few days, and is still not used to it. Shenge, come here and let auntie see if you've hurt yourself anywhere." Having been anxious in an unfamiliar environment all morning and knowing he had indeed caused trouble, Shenge could no longer hold back. He burst into tears with a loud wail and struggled toward Qi Yang while crying, "Daddy, save me." Half leaning on the bed, I watched Qi Yang, who was in a state of panic, with a faint, ambiguous smile. In my previous life, when these two children first arrived at the Qi residence, I had many trivial matters to attend to. Today, a gold hairpin is missing. Tomorrow, clothes are cut to shreds, and 2 days later, 2 grass snakes are coiled on the bed. Every time it was discovered that the two of them were behind it, Qi Yang would smooth things over, saying things like, They lost their father at a young age, and after all, they are the guards who saved me. Please bear with them on my behalf. Later, as the children grew up, they learned to disguise themselves. I was even comforted, thinking that under my care, they had finally integrated into this family. Now, the two of them have just entered the mansion and had their names changed. Before they were even adopted, I brought them out to meet people. It must have been unpleasant just now with the little friend, and the nanny by sister-in-law's side had a stern, unyielding expression. I was waiting for the two of them to endure enough grievances until they couldn't hold back, calling for their father in front of everyone. The two children cried their hearts out, and sister-in-law looked at Qi Yang as if he were already dead. As for Qi Yang, whether he reached out or withdrew his hand, he couldn't explain himself clearly. I leisurely straightened my sleeves, deciding to add fuel to the fire. Husband Tilda, why aren't you answering? I'm calling you daddy. Facing Qi Yang's incredulous gaze, I flashed an innocent and radiant smile. It was the first time in the 7 years of my marriage to Qi Yang that I had a quarrel and returned to my parents' home, facing my father, who was about to say something like, "What couple doesn't have their quarrels?" I sobbed uncontrollably. That child is already 6 years old. He deceived us into this marriage. He has completely disgraced our daughter. Besides, think about what he said back then. How could he treat you, his father, like this? How could he treat the Sheng family like this? Today, all the wives of your colleagues were present. If this matter isn't resolved properly, you won't be able to hold your head up in the capital anymore. Without a second thought, I piled on the accusations, making it impossible for my father to say something like, "All men are prone to straying. It's not a big deal." My mother held me in her arms, looking me over from head to toe, her heart aching with concern. "Master, has the son-in-law lived up to your years of support? Besides, Ranran mentioned taking a concubine for him a couple of years ago, and he refused. He's already gained a good reputation and reaped the benefits, yet now he's secretly raising 2 such grown children, trying to make our family the fool." Mother grew angrier as she spoke. "Our Sheng family's daughter cannot be bullied like this." Mother, rarely so resolute, instructed Hayu to bring Qi Yang, who had already followed but was stopped outside the mansion. Inside, Qi Yang was quite sober at the moment. He entered the room without any glib talk, knelt firmly on the ground, and kowtowed 3 times with sincerity. Then, with tears streaming down his face, he began to apologize to me. On one side, he said he was sorry for me. On the other, he cursed himself for not being human. In the heat of his self-reproach, he even slapped himself twice. After all, he was a military officer of the 4th rank. His ability to bend and stretch like this truly impressed me. My father was already restless, and now he felt even more embarrassed, reaching out to help Qi Yang up. "No need for this. No need. Come on, let's talk this out properly. Why go to such lengths, father-in-law? There's no need to persuade me. This was my mistake, and I've wronged my wife. As long as she is willing to forgive me, I am ready to do anything." He lowered his stance to elevate me, hoping that, like my father, I would handle the matter gently and let it pass. I put on a gentle and virtuous appearance, looking very easy to talk to, carefully wiping the tears from my face. "All right. We've been husband and wife for so many years, and I won't make things difficult for you. Just tell me who their birth mother is, and let her enter the mansion as a concubine." In an instant, Qi Yang's expression changed. "It is said that the spirits of the dead linger." At the age of 21 in my previous life, I already felt myself growing dim-witted, yet it always seemed as though something was pulling me along. It wasn't until I saw Qi Yang eagerly holding his wedding banquet, toasting and celebrating, that I realized how laughable my seemingly perfect life had been. He not only coveted my dowry and the support of my family, but he also didn't want the woman he truly loved to be wronged or to live in someone else's shadow, so he endured it for many years. He picked up a brush to write a poem in the bridal chamber. 20 years of wasted time. The vast sea finally flows to Mount Wu. I quietly watched Qi Yang kneeling on the ground, his expression unreadable. His words about wasted time turned all the youth and years I had devoted over the past 20 years into a joke. In that case, I'll let him fulfill his dream early this time. Amidst this unbearable silence, I smiled. The child is already 6 years old, yet the mother still has no status. You may be able to bear the reputation of mistreating others, but I cannot, no matter who she is. You should give her an explanation. a maid, a singer, surely not a brothel, she is not. Qi Yang finally couldn't listen any longer, clenching his fist tightly. I must discuss this with her. I did not respond, and Qi Yang looked up to meet my gaze directly. It wasn't the gentle smile of the past, I was rather meaningful, until he couldn't help but avert his gaze. And only then did I let out a soft hum. Discuss? You don't think I'm going to let you two lovebirds end up together, do you? I walked up to him, crouched down to meet his gaze, placed my hand on his shoulder, and instantly transformed into a smiling, cheerful demeanor, my voice full of lightness. Husband, I'm humiliating you both. Tilda. Qi Yang's long-hidden lover thus entered the mansion. Although she was only brought over in a small sedan chair, the news still managed to spread. Pang Yu's father was a sixth-rank civil official. When he suddenly learned that his daughter, who was already in her 20s and stubbornly refused to marry, had been involved in an illicit affair and had a child who was already several years old, he fainted on the spot. It is said that Qi Yang even sneaked into the Pang family that day, promising that when the opportunity arose, he would elevate Pang Yu to the status of a co-wife. Unfortunately, Lord Pang was not moved by this gesture and drove both of them out with a large broom. I leaned back in the master's chair, leisurely waiting for Pang Yu to serve me tea. I have always disdained asserting authority over trivial matters, but Pang Yu was holding the tea, and Qi Yang watched with a pained expression. Both of them were unwilling, yet neither dared to speak up first. I must say, it was indeed quite satisfying. Seeing that it was about time, I finally took the tea. Sister, it's not that I'm deliberately making things difficult for you, nor am I some jealous shrew who wants to monopolize my husband. Why must you go to such lengths? Now the whole family is being humiliated. Pang Yu tilted her head slightly, about to retort, but the two matrons my brother had carefully selected stepped forward with stern faces. She had no choice but to retreat again, acting all delicate and pitiful, as if she had suffered some great injustice. I was momentarily confused. Thank you for your magnanimity, madam, I nodded with satisfaction, signaling Hayu to bring Panna and Sheng'er forward. This time, they had officially changed their names. After all, which son would dare to use his father's name? Watching the two children rush into their mother's embrace, the three of them hugged each other and wept bitterly. I blew on the tea in my hand once more. Take a good look, you won't be seeing it for a long time. Pang Yu's crying suddenly stopped. You, what did you say? I looked at her kindly. What, little sister, you didn't think the matter of them biting and bumping into me would just be let go, did you? Qi Yang shot up from his seat, pointing a finger at me. Sheng'ran, don't push your luck. This family still bears the Qi surname. I slammed the teacup onto the floor with a crash, the flying shards nearly grazing Pang Yu's face. Well, look who finally poked his head out, our esteemed Master Qi. I thought you'd spend your whole life hiding behind women and children like a coward. What did I do wrong? Your son and daughter are already 6 years old, yet they can't recite a single line of poetry or hold a needle and thread. If you're not ashamed, I certainly am, and don't you dare hope they'll ever see you as their mother, expecting them to carry your funeral basin or hold your memorial tablet as filial children. Let me tell you, a concubine is just a concubine. As long as I'm in the Qi family, don't even think about stepping into the ancestral hall. These days of torment had been closing in step by step, though it seemed like none of it was directly aimed at Qi Yang. In reality, every word pierced his heart, and every action slapped him in the face. If the anger in his heart could be made tangible, he would already be standing at the edge of a cliff. If you dare to keep making trouble, I'll divorce you with a letter of repudiation. His voice suddenly rose sharply, but I was not afraid in the slightest. Fine. I slammed the table and stood up, raising my head to shout back at him. Right, you write it now. Once it's written, I'll go to the censorate, to the Kyoto magistrate's office, and sue you for fraudulent marriage. Let's see how a dignified fourth-rank general, married for 7 years, with a 6-year-old illegitimate child, and even bringing him into the house trying to seize the dowry of the main wife, can survive in the official circles. Let's see how your son will marry, how your daughter will be wed. I took a brush and paper from the cabinet beside me and threw them in front of Qi Yang. Right. Panna and Sheng'er were so frightened by me that they clung to Pang Yu, wailing loudly. Pang Yu held the two children, repeatedly backing away, wishing he could shrink under the table. Qi Yang was restrained by me at the table, not daring to struggle too hard, Yet unwilling to gamble with his reputation and future, he slowly lowered his hands, forcing out a smile that was uglier than crying. Ran, look, don't get too worked up, let's talk this out calmly. I maintained that threatening posture. Quietly watching him, Qi Yang slowly and stiffly turned toward Pang Yu, who was still kneeling on the ground, each word seeming to be squeezed out from between his teeth. Xiao Yu, madam, is also doing it for the child's sake. Let's just do as she says. I took a step back, calmly picked up a handkerchief, and wiped each finger that had just touched Qi Yang, one by one. Then, I threw the handkerchief on the ground and stepped on it. Wouldn't it have been better to do this earlier? Making such a scene, in the days that followed, I completely let myself go and did as I pleased. When I was happy, I would tease Qi Yang just like before, playing the part of a good wife. When I was unhappy, I would smash the porcelain and bowls in the house without a second thought, and scold Qi Yang and Pang Yu at will. My unpredictable attitude made Qi Yang miserable. As time went on, he dared not hide or respond, shrinking back timidly, with none of the spirited demeanor he once had. I sent Panna to the clan school to study, and Shunga also went to the separate courtyard to learn from the female tutor. They didn't see this as a kindness. Instead, they felt I had separated them from their parents, and their resentment grew stronger. My sister-in-law and Madame Shui came to the mansion and advised me, if I could forgive, then I should live well. If I felt I couldn't get over this hurdle, then I should divorce. I couldn't go on like this every day. Sooner or later, I would drive myself mad. I casually replied that I would think about it, but in reality, I went my own way. In the blink of an eye, half a year passed, and it was the day Panna routinely returned to the mansion to pay her respects. Heyu hurried over, leaning close to my ear and whispering, "Madam." When the young master returned, he brought a bamboo basket, slipped into your bedroom, and came out with the basket clearly empty. Should I investigate? The corners of my mouth unconsciously curved into a smile. What's there to investigate? Sending him out to study just gives him the chance to stir up trouble, doesn't it? Time to reel in the net. I casually tossed aside the half-finished calligraphy practice sheet and wiped the ink from my hands. It's fine. What bad intentions could a child have? Go prepare some wine and dishes. I'm going to invite the master for a drink tonight, although I usually enjoy teasing Qi Yang. Ever since the incident with Pang Yu, I haven't allowed him to set foot in my bedroom for even a moment. Making such an arrangement so suddenly, his fear likely outweighs any lingering desire. I beckoned from the table. Husband, come here. Qi Yang slowly sat over, as proper as if facing a superior. Ran, what are you? Treating you to a meal. I poured him a glass of wine and brought it to his lips, leaning in very close. You've had a tough time these past 6 months, but I've come to terms with it. Life must go on. After all, now that my anger has subsided and the storm has passed, how about we have a child? Qi Yang was so startled he didn't know where to look, trembling as he took the wine and drank it down in one gulp. Ran, what? You don't want to? I set the wine jug down on the table with a deliberate thud, my expression instantly turning cold, like a storm brewing on the horizon. No, I do, of course I do. It's just, I quickly switched to a smiling face again. I thought you had truly been completely bewitched by that little enchantress. I kept pouring wine for Qi Yang without pause, afraid I might start acting up again. He drank one cup after another and soon became drunk. I supported him, step by step. As we made our way toward the bed, my voice was soft and gentle as I spoke. Husband, let's guess what surprise awaits us today. I pushed Qi Yang onto the bed. The neatly spread quilt suddenly bulged up. Before I could clearly see that greenish thing, Qi Yang's scream echoed throughout the room. Arth, a snake, there's a snake. In the dead of night, the entire household was roused by my commotion. Pang Yu saw that Qi Yang's right hand and right leg were both bruised and purple, and immediately sent someone to fetch a physician. I leaned against the nanny, calming my nausea and lingering fear. In my previous life, what Panna placed on my bed was merely a small, non-venomous snake with a weak bite. Like a child's prank, little did I expect that in this life, he would directly catch a snake as thick as a wrist. It took 3 fully armed servants a great deal of effort to stuff it into a sack and beat it to death. Qi Yang lay on the bed, his body involuntarily convulsing. The physician worked busily until dawn, then finally let out a sigh. Madam, I have done my best. Lord Qi's life is not in danger. But his legs, I'm afraid, he shook his head and bowed respectfully. After the person wakes up, please take good care of Lord Chi's emotions. After the doctor left, the room briefly fell into silence. Panna stared blankly at Chi Yang lying on the bed, not knowing what was on her mind. Pang Yu glared at me with piercing eyes, full of resentment. You vile woman. You can't stand to see me and brother Yang happy, can you? If you can't have him, you'll just destroy him. Is that it? Destroy him? I let out a scornful laugh. You'll soon find out who's really going to destroy your precious brother Yang. Hey you, go report to the authorities. Tell them someone is trying to kill me. No matter how cunning Panna may be, he is still just a child. The capital prefect, Lord Yao, came to the house and easily found the bamboo basket containing the snake in his room. Pang Yu still refused to believe it, insisting that I had framed him, but Panna was outside the mansion, surrounded by a large group of study companions, and with the old man who sold the bamboo basket as a witness, he had no way to deny it. A 6-year-old child, failing to kill his mother, ended up injuring his father instead. On one hand, Magistrate Yarrow knew that such a young child could neither be imprisoned nor exiled. On the other hand, he was aware that the circumstances of this case were too severe, and mishandling it could easily lead to trouble. He hesitated and looked at me. Madam Chi, what do you think? Faced with irrefutable evidence, Pang Yu no longer dared to make baseless accusations. She immediately knelt before me with a thud. Madam, it is all my fault for failing to teach my son properly. But he is only 6 years old. According to the law, he would face death no matter what. I beg you, please show mercy. I will serve you like a beast of burden for the rest of my life to repay your great kindness. I rested my chin on my hand, leaning against the table. Pang Yu kowtowed frantically, and within moments, her forehead was bleeding. I've grown tired of watching the show and can now put on my virtuous and gentle facade again. Letting him go is fine, but I dare not live under the same roof with such a murderer. I was lucky to survive this time, but I won't gamble on it happening again. I raised my head and gave Lord Yarrow a faint smile. I want a divorce from Chi Yang, and I hope Lord Yarrow will report the whole story to the censorate. Let this serve as a warning to all officials, showing them the serious consequences that can arise from domestic unrest. Easy to say, easy to do. Seeing that there was no need to mediate the messy affairs between me and Pang Yu, Lord Yarrow was extremely satisfied. I, on the other hand, cast a disdainful glance at Chi Yang lying on the bed. His legs, which could not recover, would prevent him from ever returning to the battlefield where he had built his achievements. This is just the beginning of your good days. I wonder if Lord Yarrow and Chi Yang had some personal grudge from the past, or if he simply couldn't stand his behavior. You should have said so earlier. Look at all this fuss. Come, let Auntie take a look. You're crying so ugly. Perfect likeness. He, on the other hand, wrote a full 3,000 words, thoroughly berating Chi Yang. From the fraudulent marriage 7 years ago to the lax parenting today, his language was concise, his rhythm well balanced, and he managed to turn the trivial matters of the inner household into something that affected public order and morality. I heard that the censor was so furious that he quickly submitted a memorial accusing Chi Yang of lacking virtue and being unfit for important duties, even digging up old incidents of his mismanagement in the military and the loss of provisions as evidence. Then Chi Yang was demoted all the way to the 9th rank, left with only a meager salary as a final act of mercy from the court toward a disabled official. Before Chi Yang could even come to terms with the fact that his leg was crippled and he could no longer stand, he learned of his demotion, and I, seizing the opportunity to strike while he was down, made a grand show of packing up my dowry and returning to my parents' home. The Chi residence has been almost completely emptied by me. I believe Chi Yang will soon realize that relying on his meager official salary cannot sustain such a large estate, nor can it provide a comfortable life for his lovers and children. But it's already too late. Everything Chi Yang obtained through deceit and treachery has now vanished into thin air. What awaited them would be day after day of torment, the strain of financial hardship, children with no prospects, the pointing fingers of others, and a life shrouded in darkness. As for me, I pretended to be gloomy and unhappy, putting on the appearance of someone nursing a broken heart, and played the part of a well-behaved person for 2 months. Then, while my parents weren't paying attention, I changed into men's clothing and slipped out of the estate to have some fun. under the pretext of going to the south to inspect the shops, whether it's to check on the shops, the houses, or the handsome men, who knows? The summer night breeze was so refreshing as I leaped out from the four-sided courtyard walls, it felt like breaking free from some kind of restraint. Next, let's listen to the next story. On the day I divorced my husband, we both lost our memories. I forgot about my husband, so I enthusiastically cleared out my dowry and divided the family assets. My husband forgot about his beloved, knelt down before me with a thud, and tearfully begged not to break up. Just as the commotion was reaching its peak, the beloved favorite, heavily pregnant, stormed in. She grabbed her husband's sleeve and tearfully complained in a delicate, timid voice, "That damned scoundrel. How could he abandon me after sleeping with me? Well, the mistress is so anxious she's forcing a confrontation, on the day of the divorce." I fell so hard that the doctor said I almost became a fool. Fortunately, I only lost my memory. Coincidentally, the only thing missing from my memory was a scumbag. With thick bandages wrapped around my head, I swiftly cleared out my dowry, divided the property, and packed my luggage. There wasn't much luggage, just 2 small bundles. I opened the door and said to my husband, "Zhongli, please take your things and leave my house." Zhongli's head was also wrapped in thick bandages. His handsome face paler than paper, he rushed up to me, fell to his knees with a thud, and sobbed as he asked, "Afu, if I've done something wrong, just tell me and I'll change." Okay, I'm a bit confused. Back when I married Zhongli, we did have a period of sweet, loving days as a couple. But ever since he passed the imperial examination and became a scholar, everything changed. Just yesterday, he was stomping his feet, demanding a divorce from me, and now he's suddenly changed his tune. It seems he really has lost his memory. I sighed as I helped him up. "What's your name again?" "I'm sorry, I hit my head and completely forgot about you." He grabbed my hand tightly. "Afu, it's okay if you've lost your memory. Let's work together to start over." "Alright, not at all," I frowned. "Let's just get a divorce. Isn't that what you've always wanted?" He shook his head desperately. "No, I don't agree. My heart belongs only to you." How ironic, just yesterday, he said the same thing to me. "Lady WN, let me go. A forced melon is never sweet. My heart belongs only to her." I pressed a hand to my chest. It still hurt a little. So I said, "What should I do? There's no place for you in my heart anymore." He looked at me in disbelief and burst into tears. "Afu, from the moment we first met, I remembered you as that kind-hearted girl." "That's right. Back then, I opened the shop early in the morning and found a young man who had fainted from hunger at the door." Seeing him looking refined and handsome, and being very polite, she felt a pang of compassion. Under the pretense that the shop needed someone to write a plaque, she slipped him a tale of silver to save his life. The plaque he personally wrote for the WN family was originally a beautiful testament to their meeting. However, after they married, her mother-in-law declared that once she entered the Zhong family, she was a member of the Zhong family, and the plaque was changed to Zhongji. And he accepted it as a matter of course. At this thought, my heart doesn't seem to ache as much anymore. Zhongli looked at me, his eyes filled with memories of the past. That year, when I went to take the imperial examination, it was Afu alone who held the family together through all the hardships. Yes, that year. With heavy snow falling, my mother-in-law claimed she was ill, and my sister-in-law said she had to attend to her. To gather the travel expenses for Zhongli's journey to the examination, I was the only one, heavily pregnant, who went out to work. The weather was cold, the roads were slippery, and my body was clumsy. Before I knew it, I had slipped and fallen to the ground. The vast expanse of white snow was stained crimson by the blood flowing from beneath me. My abdomen was racked with excruciating pain as I lay on the ground, struggling to move, desperate to find someone to save the child in my womb. But until the blood in my body was nearly drained, no one came to my rescue. From that day on, I could never conceive again. Zhongli held me in his arms, weeping uncontrollably, and solemnly promised me that it didn't matter if we had no children in this lifetime. Having me alone was enough. It turns out the biggest lie in this world is his promise. My heart finally calmed down, and I asked Zhongli, "Do you still remember your promise?" He replied, "I will never forget it." Zhongli is willing to spend a lifetime with Afu, just the two of us. If I break this vow, may I be struck by lightning. Just then, a timid voice came from the doorway. "Lilang, what about me?" The young woman speaking was in the prime of her youth, delicate and lovely, evoking a sense of pity. She gently stroked her slightly protruding belly, tears welling in her eyes as she said, "Lilang, you hit your head and forgot about me. What will become of our child then?" Zhongli's face turned ashen as he exclaimed in shock, "What are you talking about? My heart belongs only to Afu. I don't even know you." The young woman blushed with embarrassment and said, "I am Chiwei. That night we shared a moment of passion. You promised me, Li Lang, that you would marry me. I was originally a courtesan who sold only my art, not my body. But for you, Li Lang, I have already ruined my future. Please, my lord, do not break your promise." It was like a bolt from the blue. Zhongli's vision went dark, and he began to sway unsteadily. Before he could collapse, I let out an ouch and fainted first. When I woke up again, Zhongli's eyes lit up. "Afu, you're finally awake." He looked at me with a face full of concern, but his words were particularly heartbreaking. "Chi Wei is all alone and has nowhere to go, which is truly pitiable. She can only stay at home for the time being. You are such a virtuous person, so I'm sure you won't hold it against her," I sneered. "This is a matter for your Zhong family. It has nothing to do with me." Zhongli quickly grabbed my hand. "Afu, please don't be angry, okay? Don't worry, I will definitely handle Chiwei's matter properly." Handle it? A dog can't stop eating shit. Even though he lost his memory, he still kept Chiwei. I sneered inwardly but asked with a straight face, "How do you plan to handle this?" Seeing my tone soften, he secretly breathed a sigh of relief. "We've been married for many years and have never had children. Mother has been so worried about this that she can't eat or sleep well, always feeling guilty towards the Zhong family ancestors. I know I've wronged you, but the child is innocent. Let's keep the child." "All right," I replied with a half-smile, my sharp eyes catching a glimpse of an exquisite silk skirt flashing by the doorway. So I said to the 3 members of the Zhong family, "Since we have already separated and the Zhong family has a new bride, please take your belongings and leave." Younger sister Zhongting let out an ah and rushed over, grabbing my sleeve. "Sister-in-law, you've always loved me the most. I won't leave, I want to stay with you." Loved me the most. I suddenly found it a bit amusing. Ever since Zhongting found out I admired her brother, she's treated me like a thorn in her side. Mocking me for being a toad lusting after swan meat. Even the heartfelt kindness I showed her was met with both acceptance and disdain. "What, now you think I'm good enough?" I pushed her away, my attitude polite yet distant. "Our family's pastry shop never keeps idle people. Are you here to apply for a job as a shop assistant?" She extended her delicate, pale hands and grabbed me again, complaining, "Sister-in-law, you never let me do any work before. How about I help you manage the accounts?" I was used to working hard, my hands rough and strong, and I shook her off in one swift motion. "Then you'd better go wash up and sleep. Dreaming is faster." My mother-in-law suffered from chronic heart palpitations and couldn't handle any stress. At that moment, she was pointing at Zhongli and scolding. "Afu is such a wonderful daughter-in-law. It's all your fault. You rebellious child. If anyone has to leave, it should be you." Then she clutched her chest and collapsed onto the chair. Groaning incessantly, it seemed her old ailment had flared up again. In the past, I would have rushed over anxiously, soothing her softly, unconditionally agreeing to all her demands, then calling for a doctor to prescribe a pile of expensive tonics. But this time, I didn't even bat an eyelid. Instead, I seized the chance to clutch my own head, moaning as well, "Oh, it hurts so much. It hurts so much," and collapsed back onto the bed, after waking up from a good night's sleep. I found the 3 members of the Zhong family standing before me once again. Zhongting looked flustered. "Sister-in-law, why is there not a single coin left in the house?" "Oh my, we finally got to the topic of money." I pulled out a small account book from under my pillow, which recorded, the day before yesterday, Zhongting spent a total of 7 taels of silver on gold hairpins, earrings, and other items at Tianxiang Tower. Zhongli was displeased. "How can Ating spend money so extravagantly? An ordinary family could live on 5 taels of silver for a whole year." Zhongting pouted and pointed to the next entry. Zhongli purchased a stick of Huiju ink for 10 taels. "Brother, you spend even more." Zhongli was left speechless. Further down, it read, "Mother-in-law's health soup this month cost 20 taels. Zhongli gave an awkward smile. "Afu is truly my good wife, serving mother with utmost filial piety." The siblings quickly looked down, For the 70th birthday celebration of the elderly lady from the Chen family, a month's worth of longevity peaches was ordered as a congratulatory gift, with a deposit of 200 taels paid. Heavens, that's 200 taels of silver, Zhong Ting exclaimed in surprise. Sister-in-law, where has all this money gone? I looked at them, wanting to speak but holding back. My mother-in-law, who had been silent all along, finally spoke. Afu, you are a filial child, tell your mother, where exactly has all this money been spent? My eyes reddened, and I squeezed out a few tears. My husband said he wanted to redeem that Miss Chiwei so he could marry her. So, he gave all the money in the house to the madam. Thud, my mother-in-law's eyes rolled back, and she fainted from anger. Zhong Li was so frightened that she rushed over and pinched her mother-in-law's philtrum, in the midst of the chaos. There came a frantic knocking at the door from outside, and someone shouted loudly, Scholar Zhong, our Master Chen says you haven't delivered the longevity peaches for 2 days. If you don't make up for it soon, you'll have to pay a penalty of 3,000 taels of silver as per the contract. Everyone present was startled. Zhong Li quickly replied, I'm sorry, something came up at home and delayed us. We'll definitely make it up to you tomorrow. Zhong Ting pulled me and dragged me out of bed. Sister-in-law, don't sleep anymore, get up quickly and make longevity peaches, otherwise, we'll never be able to pay off this 3,000 taels in compensation in our lifetime. I spread my hands, even the cleverest housewife can't cook a meal without rice. There's not a single coin left in the house. What am I supposed to use to make longevity peaches? Suddenly, everything fell silent. Slap, my mother-in-law, who had just woken up, slapped Zhong Li hard and cried out heart-wrenchingly, how miserable my life is, before fainting again. After I once again complained of a headache and lay down, Zhong Li and Zhong Ting had no choice but to carry mother-in-law back to her room. As soon as she entered the room, mother-in-law woke up and grabbed Zhong Li's hand. A Li, quickly divorce that WN family. Zhong Li was stunned. Mother, didn't you say that Afu is willing to endure hardship and is obedient? And that we should stay with the WN family? The mother-in-law sighed. We can't stay any longer. The WN family is about to fall, Zhong Li said with difficulty. Mother, Afu and I have been husband and wife for many years. I can't just abandon her. Zhong Ting also nodded. Brother is right. If we leave just like that, wouldn't the WN family's noodle shop be entirely left to sister-in-law? The mother-in-law reached out and pinched Zhong Ting. Don't be foolish, they're small. Dilapidated noodle shop isn't even worth 200 taels. The penalty for breach of contract this time amounts to a full 3,000 taels. Who can afford that? Don't risk yourself for a worthless shop. But, mother, Zhong Li tried to persuade her further, but her mother-in-law stopped her. My son became a scholar at such a young age, and he will go on to pass the imperial examination, become an official. What is WN Fu? She simply isn't worthy of you. You should break it off cleanly with her. It's only right to marry a suitable official's daughter later on. Zhong Li hesitated, but that Chi Wei is still living in the side room and hasn't left yet. The mother-in-law snorted. A prostitute dares to dream of becoming a scholar's wife. If it weren't for the fact that she's pregnant, I'd have sold her off right away. Don't worry, we can just take her as a lowly concubine later. The voices inside gradually grew softer, satisfied. I withdrew my ear and was about to turn and leave when I noticed someone standing opposite me as well. Chiwei's delicate and gentle face was hidden in the moonlight, flickering between light and shadow. I nodded toward her, and she returned the gesture with a bow. Then, we each turned and walked away. That night, the oil lamp in my mother-in-law's room stayed lit until dawn. As for me, I slept soundly until daybreak once again. Before the sky had even brightened, a clamor arose at the main gate. It turned out that Mr. Chen had sent a group of servants to demand the penalty, and they ended up cornering the 3 members of the Zhong family, mother and sons, who were trying to sneak away. By the time I supported my head, wrapped in a pitiful state, and slowly made my way to the door, the place was already surrounded by layers of people. My mother-in-law cried bitterly. It's a misfortune for our family. The WN family's wife has already divorced my son. As an old woman, even if I wanted to help you, I am powerless. After enduring many hardships, I finally understood that it's better to feign weakness at the right moment than to stubbornly insist on being strong all the time. Isn't it just crying? I can do that too. I grabbed the bundle from my mother-in-law's hands and cried as if my heart were breaking. Mother-in-law, Just yesterday you said I was the most filial daughter-in-law. How could you abandon me like this today? Zhong Ting snatched the bundle back. Wn Fu, can't you have any shame? If you hadn't hit your head, how could our family have ended up in such a state? I glared at Zhong Ting indignantly and said, Auntie, it was clearly you who caused me to become like this. How can you turn the tables on me? You know I have to go out to do business every day before dawn. Taking advantage of the darkness when nothing is clearly visible, you secretly bought cooking oil and poured it on the road I pass by, nearly causing me to fall to my death. The crowd erupted in an uproar. Zhong Ting was not one to suffer losses. It's all your fault for not being virtuous. That's why mother told me to teach you a lesson. I turned to look at Mother Zhong, mother-in-law. It was Zhong Li who kept insisting on marrying someone else. I divorced him honorably and openly. Why did you want to harm my life? Mrs. Zhong glared at Zhong Ting and said with an apologetic smile, it's all a misunderstanding. Ting is just a child talking nonsense. Misunderstanding. Back then, the Zhong family was poor, and I knew full well that Mrs. Zhong had her eye on me because I was alone and came from a well-off family. Still, I married into the family. For so many years, I have supported them with my own flesh and blood. Yet they not only showed no gratitude but also developed inappropriate intentions. Seeing that I was determined to divorce Zhong Li, they feared that all the family assets in my hands would slip away like water through a bamboo basket, so they thought it best to render me completely immobile, leaving me at their mercy. On the day of the incident, I happened to run into Zhong Li, who was returning from Qi Wei's place. When I fell, I pulled him down beneath me, using him as a cushion. As it turned out, he genuinely lost his memory. While I was only pretending, I yanked open the large bundle in Zhong Ting's hands, and with a clatter, all sorts of exquisite jewelry and clothing spilled onto the floor. You eat my food, wear my clothes, use my things, and now you even want my life. Seeing the panicked expressions of the Zhong mother and daughter, I sneered at Zhong Li, Scholar Zhong. I wonder what the crime is when a mother-in-law conspires with her daughter to murder her daughter-in-law. Zhong Li broke into a cold sweat and pleaded, Fu, after all, we have been husband and wife for many years. Don't be so aggressive, let's part on good terms. We can part on good terms, I replied straightforwardly. Just return the 200 taels of silver I gave you to redeem Qi. Zhong Li's face flushed all the way down to his neck. How about, I write you an IOU first? The onlookers were amused. Scholar Zhong is truly remarkable, borrowing money from his ex-wife to redeem a courtesan. The three members of the Zhong family wished they could burrow into the ground. Just as the onlookers were thoroughly enjoying the spectacle, a gentle voice spoke up, Madam Wn. Since Brother Li is so deeply devoted to me, willing to endure ridicule just to marry me, then, I will repay these 200 taels on his behalf. Qi took out a gold ingot. The extra money is to apologize to Aunt Zhong and Miss Zhong on your behalf. No way, Mrs. Zhong and Zhong Ting exclaimed simultaneously, their four hands immediately reaching for the gold. I was quick to react and had already grabbed the gold first. Mrs. Zhong was heartbroken. Miss Qi, you are now a member of our Zhong family. How can you just give money to others like this? Qi smiled gently. Auntie, don't worry, I've managed to save up a bit over these past few years. It's just that now, with Lilang and I having neither matchmaker nor proof, as soon as the word savings was mentioned, Mother Zhong's expression immediately changed. She took Qi's hand and said with a smile, Good child, you've suffered, let's go home right now and arrange the wedding for you and Ali. Qi gracefully bowed to me. Thank you, Sister Wn, for your kindness in stepping aside. Is a scumbag really worth it? I replied with a smile. We each got what we wanted. I just hope you won't regret it. Qi curled the corner of her mouth. Lilang is young, handsome, and a scholar. I hope you won't regret it, sister. A few days later, the sun was shining brightly, and firecrackers filled the air with deafening noise. Looking at the newly renovated Wanji pastry shop, I was moved to tears of joy. Hey, I want to order 100 wedding cakes. Since I'm your former boss, give me a 50% discount, and have them delivered to Scholar Zhong's house right away. Oh, that voice sounds so familiar. The shop assistant smiled apologetically and said, Sorry, we don't do business with the Zhong family. Zhong Ting flared up, pointing at the assistant and asking, Who said that? I said it, I replied, slowly walking out. Well, who do we have here? It's my former sister-in-law. Are you giving me such a hard time because you still have feelings for my brother? She revealed the jade bracelet on her wrist. What a pity. My brother is about to marry a new sister-in-law. You've never seen this mutton-fat jade bracelet before, have you? It was given to me by the new sister-in-law. She's not like you, so stingy. I agreed. The bracelet is indeed very valuable. Since you have so much money, you should go to the provincial capital to buy wedding cakes. Our family's temple is small and can't accommodate such a great Buddha. Zhongli's sorrowful voice sounded. Afu, please don't be angry. I had no choice but to marry Chiwei. It was my mother's command, and I couldn't disobey. The corner of my mouth twitched. Why couldn't he understand what I was saying? Zhongli added, in this entire county, only Afu makes the best pastries. When we got married, all the wedding cakes were made by your own hands. You made 999 of them, saying you wanted us to stay together forever. Until our hair turns white. He looked sorrowful, and my head was splitting with pain. Just as I was about to drive them all out, Chiwei arrived. She said she had already paid a high price to have someone buy back the wedding cakes from the most famous pastry shop in the provincial capital. Gazing at Zhongli, who was reluctant to leave, Chiwei's eyes were filled with complex emotions. Madam WN, though I once fell into the world of pleasure, I may not be any worse than you. Watching her graceful figure recede into the distance, I shook my head with a light chuckle. No matter how capable you are, it's all in vain, because some people are rotten to the core from the very start. Amidst the deafening roar of firecrackers, a new shop named Zhong's Noodle House opened right next to Wan's Noodle House. For the first 3 days of its grand opening, Zhong's Noodle House offered a special promotion. Buy one, get one free. All the customers flocked to Zhong's. Leaving Wan's Noodle House completely deserted, the guys were more anxious than I was, so I reassured them that it's normal for people to have curiosity and a fondness for new things. Sure enough, after a few days, the novelty wore off, and customers gradually started coming back. Zhongji panicked and began offering discounts again. Seeing the lower prices, customers were drawn back to Zhongji. This time, the guys weren't worried, because I told them that while discounts are a form of promotion, the most fundamental aspect of making good food is quality. There's one more thing I didn't say. Focusing only on price wars while neglecting quality is like killing the goose that lays the golden eggs. Zhong's bakery only managed to keep up the discounts for a month before stopping. The reason was simple. Not only did they fail to make a profit, but they also lost a significant amount of money. As a result, Zhong's bakery began cutting corners. It wasn't until a customer fell ill with vomiting and diarrhea after eating a pastry made with moldy ingredients that Chiwei had to apologize profusely, hire a doctor for treatment, and spend money like water. Her belly had grown large, her body cumbersome, and the shop was left in the care of the Zhong family mother and daughter. Now that such a major incident had occurred, she wanted to take back the management rights and make decisions herself. But given the greedy nature of the Zhong family mother and daughter, how could they possibly spit out a duck that had already reached their mouths? Thus, a huge commotion ensued, and Chiwei nearly miscarried. Forced to lie in bed to rest and protect the pregnancy. The Zhongji is still run by the Zhong family mother and daughter. I don't have the leisure to worry about them, because the new product I've been painstakingly researching has finally succeeded. I distributed the newly developed lotus flower pastry to the staff to taste, and after going around, I found that one was missing. I patted my head, feeling a bit puzzled. Could it be that I remembered wrong? For several days in a row, the pastries in the kitchen would mysteriously disappear. This thief was particularly cunning, stealing only one each time. Moreover, he was very clever. The shop assistants had been keeping an eye out for a long time but never managed to catch him. I glanced at a strand of yellow fur accidentally stuck near the dog hole in the backyard and smiled. Let it be. Consider it a bit of food for this little thief. As the shop continued to introduce well-crafted new products, WNG's reputation spread far and wide, attracting people from neighboring counties who came specifically for its fame. The booming business at WNG only highlighted the dismal state of affairs next door at Zhongji. After I ordered the troublemaker Zhong Ting to be thrown out, they resorted to underhanded tactics. Watching as a large crowd suddenly flooded into the shop, I suppressed the unease in my heart and stepped forward to greet them. The man inside was tall and imposing. He cupped his hands toward the customers in the shop and said, "My surname is Han, and I am the president of the Chamber of Commerce. We have received a report that Wanji Noodle Shop has violated business regulations. We are now conducting a routine inspection. Please do not panic." Han Boyuan's subordinates acted swiftly and efficiently, completing the inspection in no time. One of them held up a rat that had already been soaked to the point of disintegration and said, reporting to the president, "This was found in the raw material barrels at Wan's kitchen." I was shocked. This is impossible. No wonder your Wan's kitchen is doing such booming business. It turns out you've been secretly mixing rat meat into the ingredients and selling it. As soon as Zhong Ting's words were spoken, the sound of retching immediately echoed throughout the shop. Another customer roared, "UWNG are doing such immoral things. Be careful of having no descendants." The crowd in the store was furious, and some even raised their fists, ready to smash WNG to pieces. "Please wait," I stepped forward. "All of you are our longtime customers at WNG. Since my grandfather founded it, WNG has maintained excellent quality for 30 years. This sudden and severe hygiene issue must have some hidden reason. Please rest assured, I will definitely give you a satisfactory explanation." I turned and bowed to Han Boyuan. "Please give me some time, President Han, to investigate the cause." Han Boyuan nodded with great interest. The raw material barrels at Wanji have always been handled by a designated person, but yesterday the master in charge suddenly fell ill, and a young man claiming to be his nephew came instead. I had the workers bring this young man forward and questioned him carefully. The young man quickly confessed that he had secretly put the rat into the raw material barrel, but it was because WNG had treated his uncle harshly, so he took revenge for personal reasons. I didn't believe his words at all and pressed him further, asking who the mastermind behind him really was, but he insisted, refusing to say even if beaten to death. Just as we were at a stalemate, a large yellow dog slipped in. My eyes lit up. "You've stolen so much of my delicious food. It's time for you to be of use." I grabbed the big yellow dog by its furry ear, let it sniff the dead mouse, and then said to it, "Find out where the mouse came from, and you'll get a feast." Zhong Ting laughed out loud. Can a mere animal understand human speech? Before the words had even finished, the big yellow dog dashed out of Wan's shop and ran straight into Zhong's shop. Zhong Ting exclaimed urgently, "Quick, quick, stop that dead dog." Unfortunately, it was already too late. After a chaotic commotion, the big yellow dog dug out a black bundle from the back kitchen of Zhong's shop. Inside the bundle were not only dead fish and rotten shrimp but also dead mice and decaying toads. Now the truth was out. Mrs. Zhong hurriedly cried out in protest. "President Han, please see the truth. This must be someone framing our Zhong's establishment." Zhong Ting nodded repeatedly, gritting her teeth and pointing at the big yellow dog as she said, "That's right. This dog was trained by WN Fu specifically to frame and incriminate us. Someone, come quickly and kill this beast." Before the words had even finished, a commanding voice rang out. "Who dares?" Han Boyuan shouted at the big yellow dog. "A CAI, get back here at once." The big yellow dog barked happily twice, then obediently wagged its tail and lay down at his feet. Zhong Ji engaged in malicious competition and framed his peers. He was fined 1,000 taels of silver by the guild and forced to close for a month of rectification. I let out a sigh of relief and, seeing Han Boyuan turn to leave, quickly called out to stop him. "President Han, please wait a moment." I spoke while reaching into my pocket to pull something out. He said calmly, "It was just a small effort, no need for formalities." "Madam WN, I pulled a piece of paper from my pocket, smiling eagerly. "This is the bill for your RCAI sneaking. Ahem, sampling the delicacies at my shop over the past month. Please settle it." And then I saw his calm face crack. The carefree days flowed by like water. RCAI still loved to sneak bites at Wan's as always, and even Han Boyuan would come to the shop to sit for a while. He was a witty man. And having traveled to many places for business, he was knowledgeable and well-informed. I greatly admired his ability to chat about all sorts of topics from far and wide. On this day, as soon as he arrived and sat down in the shop, the sound of firecrackers erupted from next door again. A nearby diner curled his lip disdainfully. After being punished and forced to close, they still have the nerve to set off firecrackers for a reopening. As soon as the words were spoken, Mother Zhong's cheerful voice came from outside. "Today, our Zhong family has double the joy. First, My daughter-in-law has given the Zhong family a precious grandson. Second, my son has earned the favor of his mentor, who recommended him to be the tutor for the county magistrate's son. Someone kindly reminded her, Auntie Zhong, you'd better focus on running your shop properly, or it might get shut down again. Mother Zhong shot that person a glare. What's the use of the WN family doing so well? Some people are just hens that can't lay eggs. The WN family will die out with her in this lifetime. These words were particularly harsh, and even Han Boyuan looked over at me with concern, yet I remained as calm as ever, completely unaffected. Late at night, when all was quiet and the customers had left, I closed the shop and slowly made my way home. Afu, Zhongli stopped me. Perhaps it's true that happiness brings a glow. As he had gained a lot of weight, no longer retaining his former clarity and brightness, at that moment, he was smiling at me with an oily grin. Afu, it's been a long time, and you're still as beautiful as ever. I had no intention of engaging with him at all, so I lowered my head and prepared to walk around him. Who would have thought he reached out and stopped me again? I know your business is booming now, but what good does that do? Women, after all, their ultimate destiny is to marry. But you're neither a young maiden nor able to bear children. Rather than marrying into another family as a concubine or a stepmother, it's better to get back together with me. I laughed in anger. Oh, and what about your Chiwei then? He frowned. I misjudged her. I thought she was gentle and considerate. But after marrying her, I found out she's actually a tigress. She fights with mother and eating at home every day, causing chaos. How could she have even a shred of your virtue and generosity? Besides, a courtesan can do nothing but sell smiles. How could she be as capable as you, who have already opened WNG's branches in every county town? Afu, will you marry me again? Be my wife, and I will treat you well for the rest of my life. After saying this, he reached out and pulled me into his embrace. A strong smell of alcohol wafted over, making me almost vomit. Evil thoughts surged within me, and I took off my cloth shoe, slapping it straight toward his face. Having worked hard all year round, my hands were unusually strong. Zhong Li howled in pain from my beating. Ignoring his desperate pleas for mercy, I didn't let go until I had beaten him into a swollen mess. Only when he lay motionless on the ground like a pile of rotten meat did I say, "Come out." A person emerged from the shadows on one side, Chiwei's face ashen and worn, yet her eyes blazed with a fierce fire. "Do you think I'm ridiculous? This whole family is insane," I replied. "The path you chose is your own. It has nothing to do with me. Keep your husband in check. Next time I won't be so polite." With that, I turned and walked away, leaving behind Chiwei's tearful curses. "You heartless, ungrateful scoundrel. I must have been blind to ever fall for you. You ate my food, used my things, all while looking down on me for being a prostitute. I'm going to beat you to death, you wretched man." 3 days later, Wan's shop posted a notice. "I am looking for a husband to marry into my family." The entire county was abuzz, with crowds of people coming to sign up or just to watch the spectacle. People were all talking about it. The conditions set by the WN family's lady were just too good. Except for the first 2 sons who take their mother's surname, all the other children take their father's surname. All children are treated equally. And the son-in-law who marries into the family can inherit half of the family's property. Wow, isn't this just handing out money? The Zhong family mother and son threw away such a treasure trove for a courtesan. If it were me, I'd be furious enough to spit blood. Exactly. The Zhong family business is about to go bankrupt, while the WN family is making a fortune and is about to open a store in the provincial capital. Mrs. Zhong felt her blood boiling with rage, pushing through the crowd. She stormed into Wan's kitchen. "Don't let them fool you, everyone. That WN woman is nothing but a hen that can't lay eggs." As soon as Mrs. Zhong's words were out, the shop erupted into chaos. My expression turned cold as I asked, "How do you know I can't have children, Aunt Zhong?" Mother Zhong said, "That year, there was heavy snow. You insisted on going out despite being heavily pregnant, and you ended up falling to the ground. Not only did you lose the child, but the doctor also said you would never be able to have children again." I sneered. "Wasn't it you, Aunt Zhong, who pretended to be sick that year and even dragged Zhong Ting along to pretend to take care of you, forcing me to go out alone to earn money for your precious son's exam fees? I lay in the snow for a day and a night, and I was dug out and saved by a passerby. At the time, The Zhong clan's patriarch wanted to severely punish Zhongsha, but it was I who protected her for Zhongli's sake. Now I have someone summon the head of the Zhong clan. Would you like to confront him face to face? Madame Zhong's face instantly paled. As she collapsed to the ground, she clutched her chest and groaned, "Dublinsha, you vicious woman, you're going to be the death of me." I looked at her with disdain. "Stop pretending, you're not sick at all." The best doctor in the county town was already waiting at Wan's establishment, and he confirmed my words. "Mrs. Zhong is as strong as an ox and can live for several more decades." I took out a thick stack of bills, all from the health-preserving soups that Mrs. Zhong had previously ordered while pretending to be ill. They contained ingredients like ginseng, fleeceflower root, and donkey hide gelatin, all excellent nourishing herbs, and naturally, they came at a steep price. Those who saw it gasped in shock, saying that Mrs. Zhong was truly heartless, willing to torment such a good daughter-in-law to death and even sacrificing her own grandson's life. Zhong's mother panicked, her chest pain forgotten as she argued repeatedly, "No, that's not how it is." She then raised her hand and pointed at me. "It's all her. She couldn't bear to see my son marry someone else, so she tried every way to seduce him. My poor son refused to give in, even to the point of death, and now he's been beaten so badly by her that he can't even get out of bed." Then Zhong's mother sat down on the ground, slapping her legs and crying, "My poor, unfortunate son." Everyone was stunned. The weight in my heart lifted. I could finally expose them all at once. Just as I was about to step forward to expose Mrs. Zhong's lie, a large hand pulled me back. The person who held my hand said that Mrs. Wn had not seduced Zhong Li. Mother Zhong didn't even look up, retorting, "What evidence do you have?" The man continued, "I am the evidence. I am Han Boyuan, nearly 30 years old, currently serving as the president of the Chamber of Commerce. My wife passed away from illness many years ago, and I have no children. I don't own many houses, but I have a home in every city across the Great Zhou dynasty. My land may not be vast, but if all the fields were connected, they could encircle the Great Zhou dynasty twice. My heart is not large in this lifetime. Having only the lady of the WN family is enough for me. I wish to sign up to marry into the WN family, and from now on, all my property will belong to the lady of the WN family." The entire hall fell silent. Even Madame Zhong forgot to cry out, her mouth hanging open. Han Boyuan's forceful confession shattered Madame Zhong's false accusations. When she was driven out of Wan's establishment by the angry crowd, I knew the Zhong family was completely finished. Once again, it was late at night, and the crowd had dispersed. This time was different. There was someone waiting for me. I looked at Han Boyuan's determined eyes and said gratefully, "Thank you." His gaze was deep, making my face flush and my heart race. "I don't need your thanks, because everything I just said came from the heart." My heart fluttered with panic. But your original intention was to find the Zhong family's constant pestering annoying. So you set up the bait of recruiting a son-in-law to lure them into the trap themselves. I believe you can solve the problem on your own, but I want to help you, not as a business partner, nor as a friend, but as a man's affection for the woman he loves. Yes, I'm going to open a shop in the provincial capital. But over the years, the Zhong family, the mother and her 2 sons, have clung to me like a stubborn bone tumor, impossible to shake off no matter what I do. Going to the provincial capital means a broader world awaits me, but also more challenges to overcome. I must deal with them first, eliminate any worries from behind, before I can climb higher. Han Boyuan, he understands me. After much contemplation, I suppressed the flutter in my heart and calmly said to Han Boyuan, "I still want to thank you. You are wonderful, but I want to stand even higher." The starlight in his eyes grew even more brilliant, and his smile softened his strong features. "It's all right, I'll wait for you." The moonlight was bright, and the sky was draped in a light dusk, so the human world could be so wonderful and warm too. A year later, the main branch of WNG opened grandly in the provincial capital. In the second year, a branch in the neighboring province was about to open. I took dozens of shopkeepers and assistants with me to attend the opening ceremony in the neighboring province. While passing through the original county town, someone stopped my carriage. The woman knelt on the ground, holding her child, and kept kowtowing toward the carriage. "Lady of the WN family, I beg you, save us, mother and child." I pushed aside the carriage curtain and looked out. The kneeling woman was disheveled and haggard, her eyes dull. no longer the graceful beauty she once was. With tears streaming down her face, she said to me, "I regret it. The 10 gold ingots I worked so hard to save were squandered by Zhong and his mother in just a few years, and Zhong Li. He took a fancy to another girl in the brothel. To redeem that girl, he actually wanted me to return to my old profession to earn money for him." At this point, her eyes turned bloodshot as she lifted the clothes of the child in her arms. "Whenever I refused to obey, he would beat my Anna. That beast Anna is his own child too," the child wailed, its tender skin covered in dark purple bruises, a sight that was truly shocking. I remained calm. "Chiwei, I gave you a choice back then." Chiwei wept bitterly. "It was all my greed and blindness," she gritted her teeth, as if making a firm decision. "I did so many things to wrong you back then, and I know I cannot be forgiven. Please, I beg you to save my child. In my next life, I will repay you by binding grass and holding a ring in my mouth." After saying this, she began kowtowing to me again. I watched coldly as she knocked her head until it bled. Just as I was about to tell the coachman to leave, someone else rushed over. Panting heavily, Zhong Ting's eyes lit up when she saw Chiwei, and she immediately ran over to grab her, shouting, "Found her! Come quickly!" Mrs. Zhong also rushed over, pushing the child aside, grabbing Chiwei by the hair, and began hitting her while cursing, "You shameless whore! How dare you run off with the Zhong family's precious grandson? I'll tear you to pieces." Chiwei trembled in fear, pleading for mercy over and over, but it was no use. The Zhong mother and daughter hurled vicious insults and struck her with practiced ease. That golden grandson in Mrs. Zhong's mouth was pushed so hard by her that he fell heavily to the ground, and no one cared even when his forehead was bleeding. I sighed softly and ordered the shop assistant to help the child up and bandage his wound. Just as I was about to have the coachman leave again, a voice asked in disbelief, Afu, Zhong Li, with dark circles under his eyes and a swollen face, looked at me as if he had indulged in excessive pleasure. Over there, the Zhong family mother and daughter also stopped their beating and turned their gaze toward me. Since we were attending the opening ceremony, our group was dressed particularly grandly, with even the carriages numbering over 10. Zhong Ting's eyes lit up as she shouted at me, "Sister-in-law, I've really missed you." I twitched the corner of my mouth. "Here we go again." The shopkeeper beside me was quite sharp and immediately shouted loudly, "Shut up, who is your sister-in-law? This is the big boss of our Wanji." Zhong Ting was startled and dared not make any more random noises. I silently praised him, thinking I'll give you a raise when we get back. Mrs. Zhong looked me up and down, taking in the intricate, dazzling hairpins and the exquisite silk dress I wore. Her eyes suddenly welled up with tears as she began to cry, "Afu, it's all my fault. I was deceived by that harlot, and it ruined the wonderful marriage you could have had with A Li. Now we all know we were wrong. Please be magnanimous and don't hold it against us." She grabbed Zhong Li and pushed him toward me. "I know you've always had A Li in your heart, and he hasn't forgotten you either. After all the twists and turns, it's still you two who are meant to be together." Zhong Li also came to his senses and immediately gazed at me with tender affection. "Afu, come back. Wouldn't it be better to live a stable and comfortable life as a scholar's wife, rather than running around and struggling everywhere? What a load of crap." The shopkeeper and clerks nearby were so angry they were rubbing their hands together, ready to beat the 3 members of the Zhong family. I raised my hand to stop them and asked the 3 Zhong family members, "Do you truly want me to come back?" The 3 of them quickly nodded. I pointed to Chiwei, who was holding the child and crying. "What about them?" Zhong Li flattered. "Don't worry, Afu, I'll drive them out of the house right away." I shook my head. "No, what if they regret it and come looking for us again?" I smiled slightly at Zhong Li. "Please, Scholar Zhong, write a letter of divorce." Zhong Li was so charmed by my smile that half of his body went weak, and he immediately took out paper and pen to write quickly. I handed the divorce letter to Chiwei. "Take your child and leave." Chiwei was so grateful she could hardly speak. "Madam WN, you are a truly kind person. I will take good care of the child and live on." After kowtowing to me 3 times, she left with the child. Zhong Li said with an apologetic smile, "She's just a prostitute, Afu. You don't need to be so polite to her." I ignored him and turned to the shopkeeper, saying, "Take 1 chest of the silver we brought and give it to Scholar Zhong, then see them home." Silver, a whole chest. The 3 members of the Zhong family were utterly shocked. My smile didn't reach my eyes. "This is part of my dowry. Take it for now. The rest will be delivered after I finish handling matters at the branch store in the neighboring province. Very well, very well. The three of them accepted it with great delight and then respectfully saw me off. A few days later, the three members of the Zhong family were thrown into prison. The charge was extortion, and due to the large sum involved, they were sentenced to 5 years in prison. Zhong Li was stripped of his scholar title. 5 years later, the largest restaurant in the provincial capital, Wanfulu, was decorated with lanterns and streamers. The chairman of the Chamber of Commerce announced publicly, "I was a bit confused." Firecrackers crackled in unison, drums and gongs resounded through the air. To celebrate my appointment as president, Wanfu Tower offered free meals for 7 consecutive days. At the back door on the corner of the building, a young clerk handed a large bowl of leftover food to a grimy beggar woman. The beggar woman repeatedly expressed her gratitude, but the young clerk remarked that it was all thanks to their boss's kind heart, who sympathized with the plight of the poor. The beggar woman joyfully took the leftover food to a dark, dilapidated street corner. Calling out in a hoarse voice for her daughter and son to come eat, the daughter snatched the bowl and, with her grimy hands, frantically stuffed the food into her mouth. Beside her, the son with a broken leg remained motionless, muttering incessantly as if he had lost his soul, "You can't bully me, I'm a scholar. My wife is the boss of Wanji, she's capable and wealthy." The beggar woman touched her empty stomach and slowly shed 2 lines of murky tears. At the top floor of Wanfu Tower, Han Boyuan proposed to me once again. He smiled bitterly and said, "Afu, if you don't agree to marry me soon, I won't have any proud betrothal gifts to offer." I grinned slyly and replied, "Then you marry me instead." His eyes sparkled as he tightly grasped my hand, replying cheerfully, "Great." After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.